This is SBR's Football Betting Daily.
Take us to kickoff.
It is time for the student section. Every Monday, 4 o'clock Eastern, we're here talking college football from a gambling perspective. We're one person short. Kelly in Vegas couldn't make it, but nonetheless, we got Big Man on campus. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Jeff, welcome into the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. So you've had a busy Monday so far?
I have, yes. I just finished up our daily radio show that we do, and I had a show earlier today. So always busy, Drew. Always staying busy.
It is, man. And busy guy, but glad to have you on and get your opinions for college football. What about this past weekend, like a recap? Anything you want to put out there for the watchers? What surprised you? Anything more surprising than in West Lafayette?
No, I want to start out the show with I got crushed. I've had a bad season. That's kind of really all I'll say. It's not been a good year for me. I've had some tough beats, but I've had some bad plays as well. I had a total over the weekend that was ugly. But yeah, I mean, as far as kind of moving past that, but yeah, look, that was a surprising result. That always seems to happen though for Ohio State. Every year they have one of those games where they just get whitewashed. And Purdue had a great game plan. I'll tell you, if you had the under, I feel bad for you. There were some really brutal beats in football this week, total wise, whether it was NFL, whether it was college. There were some ugly beats. It really has, I think, a lot of people scratching their heads on if they need to reevaluate what they're doing with totals. Because right now, over the past weekend, there were probably 10 different situations where just totals went out of whack. I mean, whether it was in college with that game or Washington State, Oregon, or Coastal Carolina, UMass, or Bowling Green, Ohio, or really whatever you looked at. Then in the NFL with some of the tough beats there, bettors were obviously scratching their heads. I thought the best surprise and biggest surprise this week was Clemson. I thought they played really well. I think you needed a game like that from the Tigers. They crushed NC State and looked real good in doing so. I think we can obviously pencil them right back in as that number 2 team in the country.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Big Man. And I think we talked about it as far as we could kind of see Clemson just kind of leaning on them. Their offensive line, NC State, was a little light on their defensive front and linebacker position. Sure enough, that ended up happening. Big Man, I mean, do you see any ACC teams being able to knock off Clemson?
No, I don't. I mean, it's not a particularly good year in that conference anyway. I mean, I thought maybe at the beginning of the season, maybe like a Florida State could do it. I mean, obviously that's a pretty big game this weekend down in Tallahassee. But I mean, I think we've seen from Florida State, they're nothing more than just an average program. They're beating the teams they should, and they're losing the teams they normally lose to. If Clemson loses, I'd be quite surprised. I don't see it on the schedule. The only one that maybe worries you would maybe be that game. Duke's always kind of a tough out, but you get that game at home. So yeah, I thought before the season it would take a big kind of game for them to lose. They should have no problem going into the final game undefeated.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't see anybody in the ACC knocking off Duke. Same thing almost the same thing in the SEC with Alabama. I think that they're going to kind of run the table here. And Georgia on the other side, I mean, I guess you could say Kentucky defensively, they've been good. I believe they have a big game coming up on early November, and that one is in Lexington. Going to the SEC, do you see just one team coming out of the SEC, Big Man, or do you think Georgia could make it out as well?
Well, I mean, I think there's one team that maybe we're kind of keeping out here. I mean, LSU. I mean,
LSU
they only
as well,
have
yeah.
one. I mean, they have obviously a big game though on the 3rd against Alabama. That game is at home. I mean, let's say they beat Alabama. I mean, I think right now they're probably in as we speak. I mean, you look at what they've done. I mean, they've beaten Miami, they beat Auburn, they beat Georgia. They've taken care of business. It's just that bad loss to Florida hurts. But I mean, Florida at the time was a ranked team, and they still are a pretty solid football team. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what goes on. I mean, this Final Four right now is kind of crazy. Michigan's made their way back in. We always have Notre Dame to talk about as well. Can there's not going to be a team from the Big 12. I mean, that or they're kind of out of it. It's only Clemson in the ACC. Pac-12, they're out of it. So I think right now it's probably Clemson, Alabama, Notre Dame, and probably LSU or Michigan.
No, good. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you bringing up LSU, I forgot about that one. And guys, we are going to talk about this upcoming week's. We got a big, actually, weekday slate of college football. So we'll get Big Man's take. Also, my take. I got a couple bets here, especially on the weekday games. But did want to. We don't really promote anything on this show, but for the first time, it's just a great value. So I want to throw it out there. It's presented by UWager. It's a $10,000 value. And in order to kind of sign up for this, it's 2 free trips to, or actually 1 trip, 2 tickets to the Super Bowl. And it's 2 round trip airfare tickets to Atlanta, departing February 1st, returning February 4th. Ground transportation from the airport to the hotel and to the game. Hotel accommodation for 3 nights. $100 food per diem per day. 2 tickets to the Super Bowl and $500 in spending money for souvenirs. All you got to do is log in, sign up for UWager, deposit $100, get automatically entered into the Super Bowl contest. Contest begins October 12th, ends December 31st, so it just started here. You can be into the contest and have a chance at all of that into Atlanta for the Super Bowl. Big Man, chance to go to the Super Bowl, man, in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Would you be excited about this one?
Sure, I would love to win that. I think, Drew, the biggest thing we have to do as people is with our daily lives, we forget about, taking time to go out and make memories. And I think that's important. I've started to try to do that lately, doing things that I wouldn't normally do. Like I went to the Final Four last year, just things like that. And, Super Bowl is obviously, amazing. And I would love to go to that. I think for all of us, we need to try to take time and go out and do things to remember. And because Drew, eventually one day, all the stuff we do here, it'll all be a distant memory, and we'll have to kind of try to think of good things that we did, and you'll never forget the Super Bowl. And I mean, look at all the stuff you get. I mean, you get everything paid for. They're going to give you money to eat. They're going to give you money to go buy stuff in Atlanta. That's a great trip. And what a great idea from you, Wager. Look, we all need books too, so why not try to get entered in some kind of contest? I don't know if I can win that, but I would almost try to win that.
I was just thinking that because I need another book as well. I wonder if we're qualified. It is exclusive to U.S.
Well, here's the thing:
residents
if
or base
wins,
players.
if someone wins and they know me, bring me. I promise I'll be fun. I promise. I'll even drink for you. So.
And it is one entry per player. But yeah, for only $100, you got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Pretty much all expenses paid for. So did want to throw out that from UWager. Thank you to UWager for putting that out there to all the watchers. Big Man, we got some games weekday starting in the Sun Belt, Fun Belt play here. Tuesday night, 8 p.m. ESPN2. 101-102 at the top of the board here. Troy laying 12.5 on the road at South Alabama. This game in Mobile, Alabama. 53.5 the total. I will say this. Troy is without Caleb Barker, and there is a big drop-off at the quarterback position. We saw it against Liberty. He's out for the year with the ACL. Extra rest for both teams, so don't penalize Troy too much for being for being on the road because they do have extra rest, not a short prep time. But do you have anything off the top of your head here in the Fun Belt as far as looking to bet Troy, South Alabama?
That's a good point by you. There is a big drop off. Sawyer Smith had trouble moving the ball against Liberty, which, look, if you know anything about Liberty, they're not very good. But here's the thing. I mean, this is another soft opponent. South Alabama are not good on defense either. So you look at Troy, they're kind of in revenge here. South Alabama beat them last year. So this is obviously a big game. And if you read some of the quotes, Neil Brown, obviously, that was a big loss for them. They didn't take it well. This is going to be a tough one. You got to travel down to Mobile. You have a young quarterback here. But one thing about Troy that you always have to respect is they always have a pretty solid defense. They can hold opponents in check. And look, they've actually been quite good on the road against the number. A lot of that was with Brandon Silvers, though. You look at them, 4-2 against the number this year. Look, I don't want any part of the Jaguars right now. They're not any good. I feel like if this one stays under 2 touchdowns, I'm willing to think that Troy should be able to move the ball. I think this could be maybe a good under spot as well. I think Troy could score some points, but it's hard to envision South Alabama putting many on the board.
I like the under as well. I had this one circled to bet the under. I haven't bet it yet, but when you look at South Alabama and who they've struggled against, Georgia Southern, App State, teams that can really run the ball down your throat, and sure enough, they let up 50 points to both of them as far as average, 48 to Georgia Southern, 52 to App State. Memphis also put up north of 50 on them. Not as much of a running offense, but able to throw it. I believe, I lost on that game. And then stayed away the next two. So I'm with you. I think Troy, despite the quarterback issues, can just run the ball and probably cover this spread. I'm not going to get involved from a spread perspective, but I could see the clock kind of winding here in Mobile. I like the under as well, big man. That's a good look from you. We got another game here. Baylor, West Virginia in the Big 12. This one on Thursday night, big man, 7 p.m. on FS1. Baylor catching 14, 62.5 the total. I'll let you go on this one. Do you have any opinion here, Baylor, West Virginia?
Yeah, before the season, I thought Baylor would be one of the most improved teams in the country. They only had one win, so it wasn't that difficult. But I thought we could see this team maybe win 6 or 7 games and get to a bowl game. And I think their eye is on the prize here. I thought they were terrific against Texas. Really could have won that football game. And now you're getting a West Virginia team that's been off. I feel like they've been off for a while. I guess they did play recently, but it feels like they haven't played in forever. I guess it's because they played. Who did they play? They had a bye week, I believe, and they lost to Iowa State the week before. I'm sure they're going to want to bounce back here. They're getting Baylor at kind of a good spot. They're at home, in front of their home fans on a Friday night. But this Baylor team is good offensively. They're pretty consistent. They've actually played better on defense. And I don't love West Virginia because I don't ever trust them to get enough stops. This is a big number to cover, especially with the way they play defense. You're getting a pretty good offense coming in here. Charlie Brewer's been efficient. That offense has been able to move around a little bit. And I just don't really trust West Virginia on defense. I kind of liked them against Texas. I kind of like them here as well. Got to wonder where their head's at now that West Virginia's lost the game. You're basically not going to win anything. You're going to go to a bowl game. You're not going to a New Year's bowl. You're not going to have a chance to win the Big 12 and maybe go dancing. So yeah, for me, I would kind of look towards the underdog here. I just don't think West Virginia is good enough to lay this kind of number.
So you think one loss and all is lost for the West Virginia season?
No,
huh?
Well, yeah, because what else is there to play for if you're West Virginia? You don't have a championship game. You're not going to go to the playoff. That's just unfortunately the conference you play in. All is lost, Drew. What is there to play for at this point? To go to the Birmingham Bowl or some crappy Alamo Bowl or something? Who cares about that?
I mean, I would think if they ran the table, they could still get into the playoff. No, like outside chance.
They lost. No, they lost to Iowa State.
Yeah,
I mean,
at
that's
Iowa State.
that's again. Yeah, I know, but still, there are too many other teams that are better than there. I mean, so you're going to put them in over Oklahoma at this point? I don't see it. West Virginia ruined their season with that loss.
If they beat Oklahoma in the last game of the
Well,
season,
true. They have been the last game of the season. Yeah, I'm just not putting a Big 12 team over like a Notre Dame or a Michigan or an LSU. So I don't
yeah,
think.
no, I will say this that in this game, because I was looking to actually buy low on West Virginia in this one. They're home off of a bye week. Obviously a huge loss, being able to regroup, get back to fundamentals on the bye week. Plus, just offensively, I haven't seen Baylor much, so I was hoping to lean on you as far as their breakdown. You seem to like their quarterback, huh?
I do like Baylor. I think they're a team that they just have had so much off the field that last year was a bad season for them. And you look at this year. I mean, they beat Kansas State. I know they got killed by Oklahoma, but a lot of teams do. They're right in the game against Texas. They have 4 wins. I think it's been a pretty successful season for them here. It's a tough spot. I mean, West Virginia is not good on defense. I need a full 2 touchdowns here for sure. But if I get 14.5 or something, yeah, I'll buy in.
Yeah, my breakdowns on West Virginia. I like West Virginia. I mean, the things keeping me off of it, I guess it's been double digit spreads the last 2 years and still close games, so that kind of points towards Baylor. But I would go to who Baylor has actually played, and offensively, the two best offensives they've played are Oklahoma, who put up 66 points on them, and then Duke, who Duke went for 40 points on them as well. So this West Virginia offense, I would say, is actually better than Duke's, maybe not to Oklahoma's level. So I think West Virginia can kind of pour it on here and make this 14-point
just
spread
think,
look small.
and this is what's it's tough about doing our show here on Monday is it is very early in the week. I mean, things can change, and where this number goes is a good question. But you're right. I mean, you look at West Virginia. In their home games this year, they've put up 52, 35, and 38. They've won all those games by 16 points or more. I think the only team that they didn't beat that by was Texas Tech. I'm pretty sure that game was close. But yeah, I mean, I see your point here. I just kind of feel like Baylor can maybe go toe to toe with them here.
Big man, we got 2 games left. Do you want to answer some questions in the chat box?
Sure.
All right, man. You're kind of down for whatever.
Whatever
Zach
you
Jones,
want.
what's up? All good? We got your buddy Tomar. Iowa doesn't have 2 or 3 star recruits. Iowa's sent many players to the NFL.
Not true. That's not very good of you. You know that. You know that's not my buddy, and I don't want false information being put out there, Drew. He is not my buddy. I can't stand him. I think he's come of the dumbest topics ever. But hey, listen, he's in here talking, so I guess we'll give him that respect.
All right. Yeah, no. Thanks for watching, Tomar. LTDT, guys, who killed the guy that ran 5 dimes? Big man, do you have anything on that story? Do you know what he's talking about?
How on earth would I know that? And second of all, I think it's pretty out of line to say that kind of thing. I mean, look, let's remember. I mean, for whatever you have to say about Tony, look, I've had negative runs with him. People have. It is what it is. It's a sad story. He's got kids, a wife, and it's how on earth will we know that? It's just a sad story, nonetheless. I mean, but things happen, Drew.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. I don't know anything other than what the news articles say. So yeah, I would have no idea as well. And I don't even know if he's dead.
He is dead. It was found dead, Doug.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yes, it was reported by several different publications. But Drew, I saw a movie one time. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was called Proof of Life. Back in the day, it was who was in it? It was Russell Crowe, Meg Ryan. It was basically a guy that lived in a mountainous region, I think Colombia, I want to say, and he was actually captured by a far right militia, and he basically had to get like a hostage negotiator and that kind of thing. And if you read the article on this, this is kind of a similar situation. Somebody kidnapped him, and there was a hostage and ransom, that kind of thing, I believe. So it's a sad story. I hope his family finds peace, and this is a sad story.
Man, that is crazy. Yeah, I've never actually had a bad run bad run-in with him. But yeah, no, thoughts and prayers with his family. That's crazy, man. And check out Sportsbook Review Forum as far as up-to-date information. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but no, that's terrible news as far as he is pronounced dead. Big man, let's get back to the games. Sorry about wavering there towards the chat box, bro. We got Utah UCLA Friday night in the Pac-12, 10:30 start. So it's degenerate special type stuff on Friday night for us, big man. I know you like that time slot. We got Utah laying 10 on the road in LA, 53.5 the total. How you looking about Utah UCLA?
Well, I'll tell you what, UCLA looked pretty good over the weekend. They got a win finally. It wasn't easy for them. They're just not very good, I don't think. They're at home here, and I guess that's something to kind of be excited about. But Utah is seemingly on a warpath right now. They're beating up opponents. I thought the weekend game for them against USC was impressive. This pass defense is something fierce. This defense is actually very good in general. They're very good against the run. They're good against the pass. They've really kind of righted the ship. They had a little kind of a tough 2-game slide where they were giving up a lot of yards to the air, but they bounced right back. They were terrific against JT Daniels. They're very good against the run. I'm not looking to step in front of Utah right now. You've kind of pegged them earlier that you kind of like them, and you look at them; they've done really well in this conference. They've been pretty good as a favorite. I like them, and I think that I'm confident enough that they can go on the road and get the job done. I just always seemingly feel pretty comfortable with them towards the middle and the end of the season because they are well coached. Kyle Whittingham's a guy you kind of depend on, and you feel good backing him. Huntley's been solid. They've had a good group of running backs and receivers, and defensively they're very strong. They're one of those teams in the Pac-12 that play terrific defense. They're a team that I think we have to start to get behind a little bit. They have some tough losses this year, but you look at the end of the season, have some tough games here. They play themselves right back in the Pac-12. I like Utah. I think they take care of business against a floundering UCLA team who has had 2 wins, but they played 2 pretty floundering opponents though as well. Give me Utah here.
Yeah, you're liking Utah, and I will tell you, besides the fact that Utah is the traveling team on a short week, so one less extra day to prepare, it's going to hurt them more. Everything points towards Utah here, big man. I mean, UCLA's quarterback, the Thompson kid, he left last game. I was watching that, and they had Wilton Spite. I think that's a big drop off because Thompson's kind of a high ceiling guy, dual threat ability. Utah 3 straight wins and covers against all Pac-12 opponents: USC, Arizona, Stanford, before losing to Washington State in that Washington game. When you look back at that score, 21-7, that game played a lot closer than 21-7.
Yeah, it did.
So other than that, I think everything points towards Utah. Good defense, way better quarterback. Huntley's coming together, kind of seeing it, becoming more accurate, getting more comfortable in the offense. Utah's a one-way bet for me until further notice. But yeah, I like the Utes too, -10. It's -10.5 out there or 10, so make sure to shop around, get the best of the number because that 10 could come into effect as far as being on the road. Big man, we got one more game we need to talk about here for SBR. We got Navy at Notre Dame. Game numbers 207, 208, 56 the total, with Notre Dame laying 22 off of a bye week, preparing for an option team. I think Notre Dame's the side here. I've already bet it personally off the open. How do you feel?
Uh, I hate betting against Navy. I'm a big military fan.
Mhm.
I hate doing that. It's just, I just don't think it gives you a very, no betting experience is ever kind of ideal, but you just kind of sit on your hands because Navy won't beat themselves. As bad as they played this year, they're not going to beat themselves. They're not going to give up bad penalties. They're always going to play hard. And they're going to run the ball. It's, can they fundamentally, if you're Notre Dame, handle the gap integrity that you have to have, playing against a mobile quarterback and a mobile offense. But Drew, it is hard to get behind Navy right now. They're a bad defensive team. They're just kind of going through the motions, I feel like, at this point. I thought the game against Houston really kind of proved that. They had a lead in that game and just kind of let it all go. They were good on the ground though, and I wonder, can Notre Dame get some stops here? They have been very good against the run throughout the season, but we've seen them kind of get back down to earth a little bit. Against that Pittsburgh team, they had a kind of a weird performance against Ball State. But they're at home here. They have a ton to play for right now. I think Ian Book should have a field day on this defense. I think an over might be worth a look here because I think Navy will be able to do something on offense. Again, overs right now have been scarring for me. I think for a lot of people too. But for the record, I think Book will have a field day. It's 3+ touchdowns, but I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame pushed 50+ in this game. They should be able to totally move the ball.
Yeah, I see him moving the ball too. Also, Navy, I mean, however they've been priced in the market, we got 2, 4, 5 straight ATS losses. So if you've been betting on Navy, you've been losing a lot of money. And we all know when Notre Dame made the switch to Ian Book, they won and covered their first 3 games with him, all 3 straight overs as well. But that got bucked just in their last game against Pittsburgh. They won the game barely, 19-14, lost against the spread, also an under ticket on that one. So I think that they'll be able to, off the bye week, kind of regroup here and just take it out on Navy. I'm with you. I like Notre Dame. I guess you said you want to stay away from it, though?
Yeah, I would look more. I'm more interested maybe seeing what the total is in this game. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with your play. I think people might jump off because it's above that 3 touchdown mark. But all in all, I think Navy, are a bad defensive team. And do I think they could score 30 points in this game? No. So I think it's going to kind of consult and maybe make sense to take Notre Dame because you look at scores. I mean, Notre Dame's going to push 50. That means Navy's going to have to score 30 or 28. I don't think they can do that.
Big man, you mentioned it's tough on Mondays to get after it just because not a lot of prep time. I also went to the Dolphins game yesterday, so I'm falling a little bit behind as far as bets.
Oh, did you?
Anything you? Yeah, it was a lot of fun, except they lost.
Drew, I think it's important to sometimes in these shows talk about gambling strategies and stuff. And I always get a kick out of people that bring up. I'm not doing well in college football, and I have to come on the air every day, so I can't really hide from that. But I always find it interesting that people, bust you over a bad month or a bad year. And Drew, have you ever had a losing year in a sport, or that happened to you? Of
Yeah. Oh yeah.
course it does, right?
I can't beat baseball for the life of me, bro.
Sure. Yeah. But it's funny that you have people that are sideline, cheerleaders that nobody knows who they are. We've never seen them. We don't know if they even exist, frankly. But they're commendable in telling everyone how to live their life as gamblers. They're always better than everyone else. Yet we have no proof that they are. It's easy. Sure, you've had losing years. Everybody does. I just always
Yeah.
find it funny that people can't ever. They're always better than everyone else. You know. And I don't know, it's just irritating. You have bad years, it happens.
Big man. We'll get back to college football, but I know college basketball is your sport. I feel like we need a little positive reinforcement here, man. I saw on Twitter you were asking some open-ended questions. Some of them were good. I was going through the questions and seeing your answers
Actually,
and trying to get
I'm glad you brought that up, Drew. I've made it open to people on, I kind of at night, like sometimes when there's nothing going on, I'll just open it up and say, hey, if you have a college basketball question, have at it. And it's had some real good dialogue. I've had some great questions, and it's been fun answering those.
Yeah, it's been good. And Corey Mack jumping in saying true bad slumps for every great handicapper. Absolutely. If anybody says that they haven't had losing seasons, they either haven't been doing this very long or they're lying to you. But big man, when people were asking you like what teams kind of buy low teams, I remember you throwing out a couple good ones because that's a great question. I like teams finding change and also teams that are going to fall off a lot. Can you throw out like two or three that will get better this year from last year, and two or three that will definitely get worse?
Yeah, I think from a perspective of who will be better, I think there's some teams out of the A10 that I'm really excited about, preferably St. Louis, UMass. I think St. Louis are a really fascinating team because if you know anything about the Billikens, they were actually a pretty good ATS team last year, particularly out at Chaffetz Arena, their home stadium. But you look at this year, they are really going to be an exciting team. They're actually my pick to win the A10 this year. They're really well coached under Travis Ford. It's finally a season where I think he has his full team in there. He has kind of a player at every position. And they went out and made some really nice moves. They brought in a guy named Dion Wiley from Maryland, a scorer from Drexel, and Tremaine Isabel. They're one of the better defensive teams in the country. They were actually top 30 last year in scoring defense. They're a team that can defend. They've started to add some scorers around Jordan Goodwin. I like them a lot. I think they're a team that can take the next step. And in a conference where some of the big boys, a team like Rhode Island and teams like that, they're not as potent. I think it could be a real interesting year. A lot of different teams can win the A10. I think St. Louis is on the rise, UMass as well. I think Vanderbilt are going to be much improved. They're a team out of the SEC that I think people have kind of forgotten about, but uh, Bryce Drew has done a nice job recruiting down there. They've had to kind of wade through the Kevin Stallings era there, and they've really started to kind of get their guys into the day one. I like them. They have a good recruiting class coming in. I think Ryder will be a team to keep your eye on in the MAAC. They're really good. I think they could finally get up over the hump and win that conference. I think a team like Texas Arlington will take a big step back. They literally lost every player from last year, everywhere. They are really, really going to have trouble this year. They're probably in the basement of the Sun Belt. Texas Arlington, a proverbial favorite over the last couple of years. They're
Yeah.
also coached by they lost a lot of talent. They will be a bad
Okay.
basketball.
Yeah, I saw you right back on Twitter. Texas Arlington, will be at the bottom of the Sun Belt, and I was thinking to myself, what the heck? They're always really good in the Sun Belt since they
Yeah, I mean
joined.
the problem is you have some of these freeloading, some seasons where you just have to offload everybody. Where you just have graduation cuts you and hurts you bad, and you lose guys like Kevin Hervey and Eric Neal, Johnny O'Brien. You lost a lot of or Johnny Hamilton, a lot of talent there. It's hard to replace that. I think a team that will be good and were good last year, and they're going to kind of continue. They're in a bad conference. It's the Buffalo Bulls. This team is possibly a top 25 team to start the
Yeah.
season. They're really well coached. They bring back everyone. A team that beat Arizona last year. They have great length. They're athletic. They could be your Loyola this season. And not for nothing, Loyola be very good again. Loyola out of the MAC or the MVC. I'm sorry. They're a team that doesn't lose a ton either. So, those are teams you have your eye on. Your sleepers as far as in the country to win something. I'd keep an eye on Oregon. I think they're a dangerous basketball
Uh,
team. The Pac-12, I feel like, is down a bit this year. I think UCLA will struggle. They've had some injuries. USC never can get it done. Arizona's kind of down. I would definitely keep your eye on them and the Washington Huskies as well. Both those teams really good.
So big man, you named a lot of teams that are getting better. One team getting worse, Texas Arlington. Can you think of any other teams that you would throw out there as far as fade right out of the gate?
Right out of the gate, wow, that's a great question. I think Nevada is interesting. I think, and I've kind of been on the bandwagon all off season that I think they're a good team. I'm not going to tell you they're not. Do I think they're top 15? Sure, I do. But I think one thing we've learned when you have a team like Nevada where everyone's jumping on a team that's somewhat unproven. I mean, over the last year or two, they've really kind of come into our TVs, but there's a lot of pressure on this team. I think defensively have a major problem, and that was no more indicative yesterday, Drew, of an exhibition against Washington. They give up 91 points in that game, and it was a lot of starters that were playing. I think coming into the season, they're going to be a bit overvalued. They'll win the Mountain West, they'll get to the tournament, and they'll do fine. But to rank them in the top 10, I think it's a bit high. I think the number future-wise for them is a bit ridiculous. They could be a bit overvalued. Cincinnati, I think another team that a lot of people are very high on that I'm not as high. They're a team that, under Mick Cronin, they just haven't been very good offensively. Last year was the first real season where they put it all together defensively and offensively. They lost a lot of talent. They lost a lot of rebounding off last year's team. They were one of the top rebounding teams in the country, Drew. They lose Kyle Washington, Jacob Evans. Um, a lot of people think that they're just going to not miss a beat, but there is not a lot of scoring on this team at Cincinnati. And the AAC is a really top heavy conference this year. So I think overvalued to start the season, Cincinnati and Nevada.
Cincinnati, Nevada. Okay. Look to fade them. Absolutely, man. Troy asking, you think Notre Dame team total would be a good play? And talking back to football here, guys. Depending where it's set, of course. Big man, you mentioned that Notre Dame would be able to kind of offensively have their will against Navy. You like the team total over?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'd have to kind of figure it out once the total comes out. I think one game that Drew, I heard through the grapevine, there's going to be a total of 71 on is that UMass UConn game. If you were an over better last week, you lost on UMass and in a pretty weird game against Coastal Carolina. But I mean, both those teams. I mean, Drew, where are there going to be any punts in that game? As far as like Connecticut's going to go a mile a minute, they're going to try to think they can win this game. UMass plays no defense as it is. I know last week people were jaded, but I think one handicapping situation that a lot of people fail with, Drew, is when something bad happens, they almost shut the team out and say, I'm done with them. I'm not going back to the well with them. You can't have that. You have to forget about last week. If you watch that Coastal UMass game, there were about 6 turnover on downs. There were 3 or 4 fumbles, missed field goals left and right. There's just a lot of bad luck in the game. Um, I have a feeling this could be the highest scoring game of the weekend.
Yeah, that was a really sloppy game. I actually had that one on for a little bit. And also, about betting the team total over. As we get into late October here, guys, this one going to be in South Bend. Make sure to watch the weather. And if you're betting totals, on Mondays and Tuesdays, like when we're having to talk about it, it's kind of a tough ask because the weather report can change a lot, especially the more north you get. So make sure to watch. Just a reminder to watch the weather. Big man got 136. A couple games I wanted to throw out that were kind of tickling my fancy, I guess you could say. Changing the rotation here to rotation numbers. We got Illinois at Maryland. Maryland minus 17.5 right now at Bet Online. I'll just tell you what I like and what I bet, big man. I bet a minus 17.5 off of the loss. Obviously, Maryland has not had the season that maybe you've wanted, but I've noticed matchup-wise, them going up against Iowa was a really tough ask because Iowa can stop the run. Any teams that can stop the run, Maryland very much struggles with. If you can't stop their run, they're going to go all over you like they did against Texas. And I don't think Illinois can stop their run. And when they're able to run the ball on first and second down and really open up the offense, that Maryland offense really gets after you. So I think that this number could be small. It's one big favorite that I like. Actually, two now with Notre Dame. I bet Maryland minus 17.5. You have anything on this Big Ten game?
Hey, Drew, by the way, that Notre Dame game is in San Diego. It's a neutral site game.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. It doesn't say that on the odds screen.
Yeah, all good. As far as Maryland, I think Illinois is giving up. I think their season is pretty much done, and I that's been no more evident in the last 2 weeks. I mean, I think that game against Penn State, Drew, really took a lot out of them. I mean, I think they thought they had that game kind of, even if they didn't win, I think they were proud of their effort. And then that fourth quarter came, and Illinois hasn't been the same. Not that they were a good team, but they had kind of righted the ship a bit. They were winning some games. They had a team on the canvas at home, and they were just whitewashed, and they haven't been the same since. They've looked awful. I think Maryland, their team that I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in them either. I thought they looked awful over the weekend. I hate their quarterback situation always. I mean, could you get a team with a worse quarterback situation over the last 5 years than Maryland? I don't think.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm not. I see where you're going, but this Maryland team is. I mean, they worthy of laying this kind of number, but Illinois seems to have given up.
Big man, you brought up the UMass UConn game. Another game I wrote down was UMass minus 4.5. And we're getting in the deep, dark depths of college football here, talking UMass UConn. But I don't know if you follow Bill Connolly. He spoke at the IFBC. He just changed from his worst team from Rice to UConn. So UConn is, according to him, the worst team in college football. One, would you agree with that? And two, would you lay the 4.5 with UMass?
Yeah, I've actually and I think he's dead on the money. I actually pointed that out kind of I think a few weeks ago. I talked about how just anemic they were on defense. I mean, it's I think kind of getting to a historically bad defense. I mean, Drew, I'll point this out. Now these are out of 129 teams, 129 UConn. They're giving up 651.4 yards a game. The second closest team, Oregon State, is giving 541 up. So they're giving up almost 110 yards more than any other team in the country. They're also giving up 9.23 yards per play. The second closest is giving up 7.4. So they're giving them almost 2 more yards per play than anyone in the country. I think just defensively, they're just so historically bad that the offense is just kind of goes by the wayside. I mean, when you can't get stops and you give the other team 4 or 5 more possessions than you do. Though I was impressed with their offense, and that's why I look at this weekend and say, well, I feel like they can run the ball a little bit. I mean, David Pendell is a kind of a dual threat quarterback. If we've seen anything from UMass, they can't stop anybody. Kevin Mensah is a pretty solid running back. I think for me with bad teams, you have to look at both sides and say, is there an anemic team on both sides of the football? And you generally have one where one side's okay and the other side's just really bad. I wouldn't say they're the worst team just because I do think on offense they have something. The worst team in the country to me would probably be wow.
It's not UTEP.
I think
It's not UTEP.
no, I think Kent State. Kent State's pretty bad. I mean, I think they're
Okay.
brutal. I think New Mexico State's pretty bad. Um, Bowling Green. I mean, they're bad. I like Doge, the quarterback, though a little bit. I would probably say Kent State. I mean, I know you look at both sides of the ball, and there's just really nothing to like. Illinois is pretty horrendous. I mean, they're not the worst team, but they're pretty
That'd be
bad
funny for
themselves.
a Big Ten
Rice.
team to be the worst. Yeah,
I
Rice
mean,
is right there.
Illinois is about as bad as it gets on defense, and on offense. I mean, lately they've looked. Rutgers, I'd list them pretty bad too.
Yeah, Troy, that's a
Rutgers,
good one.
Other than for me, Kent State, I'd probably say Rutgers because Rutgers can't even like their quarterback plays terrible. Defensively, they're shocking. Yeah, I would probably say Rutgers is pretty much.
I guess Rutgers beat Texas State though, so then maybe you'd have to say Texas State.
Yeah, Texas
I believe
State's
they
pretty
did.
bad.
Yeah. Well, big man, I mean, we got 4 or 5 minutes left. Anybody want to throw anything else out in the chat box? Big man, we can go a couple different ways about this. Do want to remind everyone about the UWager contest. Just go to uwager.com, sign up for the contest, $100 deposit, and you get entered into the contest for 2 free Super Bowl tickets, trip to Atlanta. All expenses paid for, almost all expenses paid for. You get a per diem for food plus souvenirs. So make sure to check that out at UWager and just deposit $100 to get into the contest. Big man, I guess anything else college football or college basketball you want to throw out? When does the season start? 3 weeks?
November 6th.
November 6th. All right.
Someone's asking about Xavier. Do they take a step back? I mean, of course they do. I mean, they lost a lot of talent. I mean, they lost Blewett, McCurra, Gates, Cantor, O'Mara. They lost a lot of players, but I still have them top 40. I think they're kind of a third or fourth in the Big East. They actually have a really solid group coming back. I mean, Scruggs, Marshall, Gooden, Tyreek Jones. They got a transfer named Ryan Wellage from San Jose State. He's a good player. And they have a kid, a D2 transfer, one of those. He's 6'11", got great size. Yeah, I mean, look, they're going to take a step back, of course. I mean, they're not going to be as good as they were last year, but they have a new coach, which is tough. That's always tough to kind of handle. They're kind of a third or fourth team in the Big East. They're not as good as Villanova, Butler, or I even think St. John's could be better than they are. But you also have other good teams in that conference. But they'll be average. They're a top 40 team. They can push making the tournament. But are they going to make the Elite Eight like they did last year? No.
Big man, is November 6th like a day you circle as far as November 6th, 7th, 8th, days you're right out of the gate in college basketball looking to bet a bunch of games, or no, or you kind of sit back and watch?
No, I actually already have games circled. I've already created my own numbers for them. So, yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for them to come out, really. And you have to remember, Drew, November 6th, I'll actually be at Temple that day for Temple LaSalle. But yeah, I have games already written down. I have numbers created for them. Obviously early in the season, you have a lot of games that won't have numbers, but there's a lot of games that I think are going to be meaningful. You have BYU, Nevada right out of the gate. Duke, Kentucky, Michigan State, Kansas. I mean, you have some games right out of the gate that are important. So, yeah, I'm ready to go.
Cool, man. Anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down, big man?
No, I always appreciate it. I always like talking to you, Drew. Always appreciate all the comments. Always good comments, and happy to have the avenue, Drew.
Yeah, me as well. Thank you to SBR, and guys, make sure to check out UWager, that special that they're running for the Super Bowl contest. Just $100 deposit there for round trip tickets to Atlanta, 2 Super Bowl seats. We've talked about it a bunch. Check it out at uwager.com. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We will be back Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. We're going to add Asher Wildman. We've been having great shows on Thursday. We'll get our picks in, throw them out, and hopefully get you on the right side going into the weekend. But thanks for tuning in. Big Man and I will be back together on the roundtable, 10 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday, and then again 4 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. So, thanks for tuning in, guys. Best of luck with your bets.
Thank you.